hanging out with your kids and your leaders this summer has been an incredible experience. I just want to take a few moments to tell you a little bit what it was like to be at kids camp and to be engaged with kids and super leaders, the leaders from your church. Can I tell you, I love your people. I can understand why you like hanging out with them every Sunday. It was our privilege and joy to get to do that through camps throughout the whole entire summer. One of the new values that we've added to Kids Camp this year was to take your adult leaders and to take the opportunity and engage them in some leadership development while we've got them there at camp. So we squeezed that in because we believe it's really important. We wanted to send your leaders home, not just with tired and exhausted kid campers and hunger for their own pillow, but we wanted to send them home with some great tools that will help them minister to kids, the kids that you guys are called to minister to in your community. So one of the great ways to do that is through a book that we use, written by a guy named Reggie Joyner, called 6 Things That Every Kid Must Have. I've got something here. Let me show it to you. This is 936 marbles. Check it out. 936. I know that because I counted each one of these marbles myself. Yeah, I did it on my own time. Anyways, let me tell you something. Each one of those marbles, if they represent 1 week of a person's life, that would equal from the time the child is newborn until they graduate from high school, 936 weeks. It doesn't really sound like that much when you think that is the span of time from birth into 18. Well, in kids ministry, it's even less. Well, what that marble thing teaches us is to count our days. Now, you know what? As we engaged at camp and engaged your leaders at camp and your kids, if I could be the Holy Spirit, I'm sure you've said the same thing, Pastor. If I could be the Holy Spirit and I could reach into a heart and I could make a child love God, if I could make a leader yield to his spirit, if I could make those things happen, if I could somehow convince them to follow Christ for the rest of their life and to never stray, I'd do it, right? Wouldn't you? But you know, we can't do that. It's not our role. It's not what God's called us to do. Well, what has he called us to do? I may not be able to make somebody follow Christ or conform a heart to surrender to him. But what can we leaders do? We can give kids important things over time to help them come to the realization of who God is and what his character is like. That's what he calls us and what he asks us to do. Marble number 1, the first thing that every kid, probably adult needs too, is time. Kids need to have you spend time with them. It's the love language of knowing that you're authentic and real. The Bible tells us in Psalm 90, verse 12, teach us to number our days. So, you know, that first marble, and looking at all those marbles, is doing exactly that. Count the time out and then use it, spend it wisely. You tend to count your days more when you count your days more. Did you get that? Your days tend to count more when you count them out and you realize what little you have. So time is the first thing that every person, every kid needs to have that established relationship, to know that you're authentic, that you're real, that you're genuine, that you have a true investment into their life. The second marble is love. Love in God's paradigm is an unconditional thing. How many times did God demonstrate his love towards the children of Israel back in the Old Testament? You know, they failed him over and over and over, yet God continued to show up. That's what we do too. When you love kids, you don't just get through a Sunday school class or a small group meeting or a kids' church planning session or whatever your paradigm looks like. When you show up, that equals unconditional love. When you continue to care about them, know them by name. Can I tell you something? I'm going through a little something this week. One of my most favorite Sunday school teachers who invested into my kids' lives in the church world that I served at for a good length of time, she's getting ready to go home to Jesus in just a matter of days. It makes you stop and ask a lot of questions. Well, what made her the favorite? I'll tell you what made her the favorite. It's because she gave unconditional love. You know what? You may not get through every lesson just right, but when you look a child in the eyes and you hear their stories and you recognize them by name, and you can call them by name, and you get down and you look at them eye level, it makes all the difference in the world. Maybe adults are the same way too. Unconditional love. It's marble number 2. Marble number 3 is words. Kids need a lot of words. What do you mean, Robin? We just need to cram language at them? You need to tell them lots of words. You know what? Because when we are talking with kids and we are engaging them in conversation and we are giving them the time of day and calling them out from their video games and their iPhones and whatever they've got in their hand, and we're talking with them, giving them words, you are actually creating a vocabulary. Think about this. Inside of their mind, inside of their heart, inside of their person for the rest of their life on how they communicate with God and comprehend His world. You are building that vocabulary. I find that fascinating. Marble number 4, they need stories. Lots of stories. They need to hear your story. They need to hear God's stories. They need an opportunity to tell their stories, even the stories about their sick dogs, whatever they are. They need stories. But of course, we've got the best script possible because we have the Bible packed full of amazing real life stories and incredible parables that teach kids in Christ-like way through stories on how we are to behave and how we can bring out the best in ourselves and in the world God's called us to live in. God's stories. And that's the thing. As kids need stories, and you give them stories, you got to connect it back to the story, the grand story, the big story, that all these things point us to Jesus, and that Jesus is the one that brings us back into relationship with our Creator, God the Father, the big God story. Kids need stories. Another thing that every kid needs is tribes. Kids need to know that they belong. They need to know that there's room at the table for them. I love the story of Mephibosheth. King David is now in place, and one of the first things he asks, well, over time, he says, are there any descendants left of the former king, King Saul? Well, you know what the answer to that is. And there was one named Mephibosheth. Now, here's the motivation is that the new king usually wants to kill and cut off all these descendants of the former king, but not King David. He went to go find Mephibosheth. In fact, had Mephibosheth brought to him as a crippled young man and brought them to King David, and he bows down. He says, what do you want with a dead dog like me? And David says, I want you at my table. I want a place for you, eating with me. I want to restore your inheritance to you. This is just a tiny snapshot of what our God does. He makes place for it. It's a need for us as individuals, people. We all need to feel like we have a place, that we belong. Kids need that too. You can give them, this is your place, this is your spot. You're accepted into this family. God has a place for you. So this is just a little slice of what it was like to be at kids camp. If you were a leader and learning some of the great things that these leaders learn, and they learned how to take those truths and immediately apply them to the kids camp world. Because when you send your leaders and your kids to us, as SoCal Kids, to one of our events with our great network, can I tell you we want to invest in them so they can go back to your church and be strong leaders, doing more effective work for the kingdom, being more encouraged and more inspired than ever before. Thanks for letting me serve you. Thanks for letting me connect with your leaders. I look forward to more with you. God bless.